We have some time for a Q&A. Dustin, I'm going to start with you. Being such an accomplished actor, and this being a directorial debut, working with such absolutely incredible people and such iconic individuals. On one hand, I can see that being very easy. On one hand, I can also see that being very difficult and challenging. What was it like?
There wasn't anything that was difficult about directing the actors, because everything that I despised in directors for 45 years, I knew they also despised. And the big thing with, all of you are, God knows the connoisseurs of film or even in film, and the unfortunate thing that happens is that all the time is spent lighting, and then the actors are brought out and they're supposed to get it immediately. And anyone who's creative, whether it's painters or writers, and particularly actors, you're allowed to have a chance to fail, and fail, and fail until you fail better. And that's what we had here. We just said, let them alone and let them have a chance to find it. And they did, because their instincts are organic. And I will never be as thankful as I am now, having had this opportunity with these great, great artists, and I thank you.
And how easy was it to get any work done with someone like Billy on the set?
Billy, on the one hand, is a comedian, but if you saw Mrs. Brown, he was brilliant in that. And when I first called him and asked him to be a part of this, he said, well, who else is in it? Bad accent. And I said, Maggie Smith. He said, oh, Jesus. He said, Courtney, no, they're all legends. I can't do it. He says, I'm not an actor. I'm just a comedian. I says, no, you're an actor. And I think what surprised all of us is how, so easily fit in with us and just became a part of it.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Lady right here.
I'm the youngest.
He is, and he never failed to tell us that every single day. I can't tell you why it took so long, because I'm still working that out with my therapist. It goes under the heading of demons. We all have our own. But John DeBorman directed, was a cinematographer. I worked with him on Last Chance Harvey, and after we finished, 3-4 years ago, I said I'd love to direct something, and the next day he told me that Finola Dwyer had called him and said she had a script, not even knowing that John and I had this conversation, and he sent it to me. And they had a director, I think they've had 1 or 2 directors, something, they fell out or whatever, and I asked if Finola would consider me, and she says, well, let me think about it. And then she said yes, but while we're on it, please, I negated to say, because I was a little nervous, Harvey Weinstein was brilliantly creative and wonderful in his experience. Not just that he took the film on and he nurses these films, these type of films probably more than anyone ever has in the history of film, but he had ideas and thoughts and notes that we took and that are on the screen. And I thank you, Harvey, for that.
Gentleman in the balcony out there. Good questions about the locale of the film, where it was filmed.
Well, why don't one of you Brits answer that?
I didn't hear what the question
was. Where did we shoot this?
Where did we not shoot it? The home
was called, believe it or not, Headsor House. And it was in, yes, in Buckinghamshire. But you probably have seen it in quite a few films and television things. They used it a lot. But we were the best.
You know, I have to say that they rented it to the company, and it's been passed down. Was it 17th century house, 16th century, whatever it is? It's been passed down. It's over 300 years old, and the families have passed it down. And the family that's living there now, they have a house nearby, and they make their living off of this mansion. Certainly part of it, and they have weddings there on the weekend, and they refuse to make a deal with Finola unless they could continue having weddings. So every Friday, everything had to be struck. Every Sunday night, everything brought back in. And the crew worked harder than I'm sure they've ever worked on anything. And that's, anyways, that's the story of Headsor. Head sore, sore head.
The gentleman right here. The question is out to each of the quartet. In one sentence, how would they sum up Dustin's directorial debut?
Inspirational, boundlessly loving. That's it, he's a dog.
What he said on the first day. Oh, I'm so excited!
Being directed by Dustin Hoffman is a bit like open-arse dentistry. It's lovely when it's over.
Well, I thought it was terrific to be directed by an actor who I have admired for, I'm not going to say how long, but a long time. That was absolutely wonderful, but it was wonderful to have somebody on that side of the camera who understood how we were feeling. I can't tell you what a gift that was, and I shall be forever grateful. Thank you.
It is singularly the greatest experience I've ever had, and fuck you, Billy.
This is getting out of hand. The lady right here in the front. The question is about how Dustin and the group assembled such an incredible variety of cast members, not only the quartet here, but the rest of the people in the house.
It wasn't, you know, I read it and it didn't distinguish itself by saying these are real musicians, they're real opera singers. I'm sure it was written to cast actors, and I've never liked the term background or extras, you know. One thing I loved about Fellini is he always made background foreground, and I thought this was a film where that should happen. So Lucy Bevan was the casting director, and she put out an Olivia, God help me, I'm bad with names, her assistant Olivia, they put out a wide net, because I said I wanted real opera singers, obviously retired, and musicians. So everyone on that screen, in terms of the singers and the opera singers, and the musicians, are in their 70s, 80s, 90s. That trumpet player that you applauded, which brought tears to my eyes, he's 83 years old. tape of him playing at some gig. He said it was the first gig he got in 10 years. No one calls him. These people, so what the film that we were making, and this was extraordinarily, emotional for us on a day-to-day basis, that these people who had been forgotten, some of these people, as you said, see on the credits, were great stars in their day, had played La Scala, had played these places, and now they're, they're just passed by the culture. And suddenly they get this chance to come to work every day. And work they did, 14, 15 hours a day for 54 days, and they would have still been there working. They loved it, they treasured it. And it
I see a hand right there. Yes. The question to Dustin was, what was it about the script that made him want to direct this film?
By the way, when I came this morning and they were testing out the sound. Oh shit, it doesn't work. The point I wanted to make is that it was a vaudeville house. This was a vaudeville house. And they said, and I never knew this in all these years, and the sound in a vaudeville house is the same as a theater. And so that when there's a laugh or when there's applause, it resonates. But when it's, for film houses, for movie houses, they design it so that it's flat. So if there's a clap, it doesn't resonate because they don't want anything in the audience to take away originally from the sound coming from the screen. And so it's in some way alienating for an audience. So this is the experience that you should be having, you see, so that when you feel each other and it is the theater. And that's, thank God, we'll never have this audience again, by the way. What was the question?
The question was about the script. What was it about the script that drew you to make this your directorial?
I had a roommate, Robert Duvall, left to add that, at least 8 years older than me. But anyway, he had a brother who was an opera singer. This is in the days when we were all waiting tables, and his brother was an opera singer, and he had friends that were opera singers, and we were all, it was a time there on 109th Street in Harlem. We were all living together, and I got to know opera singers, and I got to, I didn't know anything about opera, but I got to know them, and they're extraordinary people, and I knew nothing about them, and I learned a great deal, because many, at least then, they don't achieve a maturity, really, in terms of their work sometimes until they're in their 40s. And then, they only have a certain amount of time, like athletes, until suddenly they don't hit those top notes. And they are athletes, which we don't realize. I mean, these people in the movie, that's them singing. And what it takes to push down the breath and to get the sound out, they are extraordinary. And in their day, they were superhuman. And I had a respect for them when I lived with them, because they differentiated themselves from actors, because they were not only aesthetics people, they were athletes, and they were extremely horny people. They put actors to shame. They get laid between arias. I mean, there were stories I heard. That's why I did the movie.
Why are you giving me this?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry to have to close it, but please, yes, on that note, unfortunately, Pauline Collins, Tom Courtney,